counter pick opportunity. Quick update on Ambition's Kha'Zix. 10 games played, 9 wins, 1 loss career-wise. And 1907 taking their time to figure it out. Going to be locking in this Galio. Still has that flex possibility as well, which is safe. Gives them even more options at this stage of the game.
That's the thing I really like. It's something we highlighted a lot when the Gigabyte Marines would focus as champion, right? It provides a lot of mobility and a lot more potential for surprise plays. When you have Rakan engage with the Galio on top, suddenly it is a bit easier to go for those engages and still have the Ardent Sensor and not worry as much about being so squishy because you've got this big Galio, coming to save the day right behind you.
Well, big Galio going into big Cho'Gath. And of course, Malzahar to close out this team comp here for Crown. Frozen, he loves some assassins. What does he play into it if he wants to risk it?
Well, that's the question. Are they expecting the Galio to go into the mid, or are they expecting it to go up to the top lane? Because there's still that flexibility, and 1907 will send it up to the top and round things out with a... We're going to have a Battle of the Void in the middle lane with Kassadin up against Malzahar. A matchup I have not seen in competitive play, but I'm excited to see how things play out.
So it's decent for Kassadin early on because Malzahar is not going to have a lot of early pressure on the Kassadin. We talked about kind of a bit yesterday where he's just trying to get the last hits on CS, and even that can be a struggle sometimes. Kassadin, being allowed to scale up early could be dangerous. Ambition, thankfully for Samsung, is actually on a good champion against Kassadin. Kha'Zix actually can prey on him quite well, since Kassadin's not going to build any early armor or anything like that, but it's really going to take some coordination. If Crown just survives and gets his ult off and Ambition is around, that's where you can see, the Kassadin aggression turned around sometimes.
I think also Malzahar is just naturally good at locking down high mobility targets. And when you look at this composition as a whole, there is a lot of mobility. Rakan, Tristana, Kassadin, Galio, so many champions that are really good at just dashing in, dashing out, moving from one side of the map to the other, something that a Malzahar could just very quickly lock up and allow Ambition to shred through.
You only get one. Which one
do?
You
That's the
choose?
question, yeah.
What I do like about the options of the dashing, when you look at the combinations, Rakan, Tristana, Kassadin, Rex, Galio, if 1907 pick the targets and decide to go in, everybody's going in together. So good luck dealing with that sort of 5-on-5 engage. And quick update, this is the first time Frozen has played Kassadin all summer. So pulling it out on stage, and we'll see what he can do with it. I remember his Echo performances from play-in and from last week. And we'll see whether he can make this Kassadin work, ladies and gentlemen. Samsung Galaxy taking on 1907 Fenerbahce. If Samsung Galaxy win this game, they will share first place with a win-loss record of 3-1, and more importantly, they will eliminate 1907 Fenerbahce from any playoff contention.
So very important game is what we're saying, really, for both teams. Samsung having the opportunity to equalize their score with RNG, but looking a little more into this mid-lane matchup, often a thing that players often forget about Kassadin is his passive gives 15% reduced magic damage taken. Like, he's pretty good against AP, especially when you think about Malzahar and his all-in combo. It's going to make that bit a little bit harder, especially if Frozen decides to go for either an early Abyssal Mask or a more likely early Rod of Ages.
Once again, my eyes are so focused on the junglers. Crash is running the experienced Quint on Rex side, so the options of early visits from these AD jungles to the mid lane is definitely a possibility. Yes, Kassadin would like to get that level 6, and then you really have to watch out, but it could even happen earlier than that.
All right, Samsung Galaxy now taking on Fenerbahce. Last time they played, Samsung almost lost this game. We did touch on the story fairly early on about how it was Haru playing that jungle Ezreal, but let's take a look at the gold graph and show you just how long Samsung had an opportunity to lead. This is the goal difference from Fenerbahce's perspective. You can see they lose to about a 4K deficit by 10 minutes, maintain until 30, and then all of a sudden turn around, Venus.
That's the big thing that a lot of people remember Fenerbahce just having this big gold lead towards the end of the game, but it was Samsung that were in a very heavy control. They had a lot of early towers, they had a lot of early ganks thanks to Haru, and everything was going their way largely just because of the lead Cuba had up in the top lane on that Trundle.
And that was such a close game. Samsung afterwards, the players were talking about how they took that loss very seriously, and they do not want to let, almost lost. Again, I have the Papa Smithy syndrome, where it was such a scary moment and a scary game for them that they consider being that far down for so long. Definitely not the optimal strategy.
No, absolutely not. And when you've got, such a gigantic lead, 4,000 gold by 10 minutes, I think 2,500 gold lead on Q-Base Trundle, which was hugely impactful, but they couldn't actually turn around. You can see they're 2.4k at 15, didn't play the split push, didn't utilize the tools, and while we've been telling stories, Pad and Capone, Rula and Cordier J continue to trade, going back and forth, really getting into their face, and opponents going in.
So, looking back at how QV played, like, he actually did a lot of work in terms of the mid to early game on that Trundle. He took a huge number of towers. We have to pay attention back to the mid as Crash is looking for a gang.
All right, let's find out. Flash is available, Void Shift is not. Crown actually respecting the potential, and Crash does not go for the flash follow.
Remember, that experience Quinn I talked about on display here. Crash with Raptors red, goes into the Scuttle Crab, goes to invade, tries to get to Ambition early on. Ambition did get out over the wall, though, on that Kha'Zix, and he's been able to purchase his first back just fine. So no harm, no foul.
A lot of early trading this game. Feels a little bit higher tempo than from game one of the day, but I think the champions also somewhat allow for that. QV and Thaldrin, they're going to be trading back and forth as QV's just going to be looking to time. He really wants to scale up and get those chomps down.
Big priority here for Ambition to ensure that there's no repeat gank on the mid lane since Crown doesn't have his flash.
All right, let's see what Frozen can do. Try to get himself away. He's already used that summoner spell. There's no support from anyone else. And our Ambition's just going to use this pressure advantage to clear out the vision.
Now this is what we were very much talking about, Kobe, with regards to these AD mid laners looking to try and gank mid. Now, every flash has gone for both Crown and Frozen, but Ambition had to use his as well. Frozen was in a good position in the lane that he could have just walked out from the gank, so Ambition wanted to try and force it, now he's going for a repeat gank.
Remember, no flash, no 6. Frozen, what are you doing? Now, there's no mana for Crown, actually, and all of a sudden, Crash is here to respond, so good counterplay by Crash.
Yeah, they know junglers are around, sharks are in the water, so you don't want to overcommit to those chases, and that's where the vision around mid lane was so important there. They're able to back off. Crash even chases Ambition out after the one chicken steal.
Yeah, not going to get any more of those Raptors this time around, and as we approach 5 minutes, a lot more tempo, a lot more things happening this time around with those two sort of damage-heavy junglers in the early game. But it's Rula and Core JJ, though, once again getting pushed in is something that every time we look bottom, Pad and Japone just keep shoving them in, Vinius.
Yeah, because the mid lane has drawn so much of our focus. We haven't even had an opportunity to talk about this bottom lane, and it's extremely important to do so because one of the players to highlight from 1907 Fenerbahce is Pan. During the laning phase, during play-ins, this guy struggled a lot. His average deficit was something like minus 10 CS on average at 15. Like, he was really struggling during the laning phase. But coming into group stages, his performance has significantly improved. He's been holding his own against players like Uzi and Sven, and now Rula as well. And you can tie that into the fact that Rula hasn't had the best group stages either.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, Padden playing into the Janna. It's one of the supports. They go gold runes all over the place now, so the combat effectiveness early on in the lane phase a lot less. And Janna just kind of sits back, shields the AD carry. So I'm sure he's happy to get the CS that he's getting here early on. But again, we'll take a closer look at Ruler.
Yeah, 2.4 KDA, not the greatest. His damage rating shows you an adjusted expected damage based on a number of factors, and he's underperforming on the champions he's playing. Of course, one big factor for that is something the analyst desk mentioned, and Kobe, we were talking about earlier, an average of 98 damage per minute for Rula on his Twitch game in their loss to RNG. Tells you how heavy-handed that defeat was.
But it was also one of those situations where he never really got an opportunity to fight or utilize the strength of Twitch, and he was in a really disadvantageous matchup. So while it certainly is a low value, I can also understand how that value came to be.
Oh yeah, it tells a story, all right. It tells a story of an AD carry getting dove over and over and over. Can't put out the damage when you're dead. Frozen tries to go in there and take away a large chicken, but don't believe the spear landed.
All right, so even Stevens in the game at the moment. Flash is still not available in this mid lane, but very difficult to gank both of these respective champions. Of course, Frozen got Rifthawk available, and with Crown's passive, it's just a frustration needing to pop that before you can do anything after.
Yeah, it is a frustration. It's a little bit less for Kassadin than a lot of other champions because at level 6, you're always threatening a Rek'Sai gank, right? Kassadin, with the Null Sphere, you pop the shield, and then you're always threatening a Riftwalk into a slow on passive-less Malzahar, and you kind of always have this unseen threat of, you better have wards on my jungler, or else, I have the threat of all-ins.
Crown has got his summoner available now. Got that flash heal Frozen's got the option to TP around the map. Fairly standard, and on the side, the Turkish representatives, they've got the ability to play 1-3-1 very effectively. KorJJ and Rula go through this control ward, make their way up. Nether Grasp and Flash is available for Crown if they want to lock down Malzahar.
And Malzahar has hit that level 7 mark now, so he's gotten a few extra points in his E. That means his wave clear is so much more effective. We got to stop talking about mid laners right now because Crash, he is in the jungle.
All right, trading back and forth. Crash is going to smite away that Sentinel before he makes it out clean.
So actually, Frozen here with the with the Kassadin can one-shot the Voidlings, as you've been seeing on screen, with just a level 1 E for himself, and that's what he's been doing to just clear those out and take away a lot of the pushing power of Malzahar, and he's feeling pretty nice in that combo.
Feather Storm used by Rula. First blood available, but not yet taken. Pattern needs to run away as KorJJ not yet available with the Monsoon. Japoni threw down the Ignite, and no one dies yet.
Really good trade there for both sides, in all honesty, but KorJJ, he's still fairly healthy. His ultimate is going to come up soon, but Rula not feeling confident, deciding to back away. The burst coming down onto Pan after Rula used the ultimate was a little bit scary there, but Pan was able to walk out.
All right, so again, still nobody dying despite excessive trades. First backs, by the way, BF swords were picked up. Lost chapter for Crown. Makings of that Renovages on the side of Frozen, building his way up at least. Just slowly scaling our way into this mid game. Fenerbahce, 1907 Fenerbahce rather, they've got themselves a small gold lead just through farming, which is a good sign for this squad.
It's a decent sign. One thing that is another sign that could be bad for them would be the control wards here creeping into this river for Samsung. Ambition, by the way, he is one of the Kazakhs that will go the Q evolve early on. That gives you more threat around taking these dragons, and a lot of people have really jumped on the train of the R evolve early on because you can have a lot more mobility and opens up a few more gank paths. But now that he's got the evolved Q, you do have a lot more single target damage, and that is something to keep in mind.
Also early skirmishing power. When you think about what Crash is trying to do in the early game, when they come in for the counter gank, he's going to have that ability to dish out just as much damage as Crash can.
Oh man, Taste Their Fear, gonna be so scary. Samsung Galaxy, one of the most underwhelming Korean squads from the first week. You know, their record 2-1 could easily have been 1-2. And there's a lot of eyes on how much things can change from week 1 to 2. Will, you know, 1907 Fenerbahce be able to grow, develop, show that they've improved? And will Samsung Galaxy start to silence some of the critics and prove they can take over? They've got ambition. We know their mid to late game, that's where he shines. And we're slowly edging our way towards that.
But it's also just where the team shines. When we look back at how they played against G2, it was their ability to fight in the mid to late game along with their decision making that allowed them such a clean game. And now we have to look at Japone as he's looking for an engage.
All right, got the engage with the quickness, manages to get a follow-up knock-up. Beautiful first blood, and it's picked up by Frozen.
1907 Fenerbahce are the ones to find their first kill. They kill him before the TP even starts channeling, and Thordran gets completely caught off guard.
And Samsung, it felt like you know, they had seen Crash, but they didn't quite have you know, the whereabouts of Hapone tracked for that one. And he came in half a screen away, immediately annihilate the Kassadin. There goes the Dragon, so no chance of the evolved Qs taking that one down. 1907 Fenerbahce very happy with the first blood and objective.
And just as we were talking about Samsung, their ability to play mid to late game, one of the things I wanted to start looking at for 1907 Fenerbahce was their ability to start forcing plays. They have the Galio ultimate. They have a teleport on top of Kassadin. They can start roaming around the map and looking for picks, but they just have to come to the mid lane. Japone roams up from the bot. He can see that his AD carry has come back to base, and they use the fact that SSG just have this small dip in vision, and they're not expecting this very quick 3-man collapse.
Such good play out of FB. Teleport's going to come down into the mid lane here for Frozen. And instantly, a little bit of chunk damage. But there we go. First blood, first dragon as well. And this will allow the Turkish representatives just a little bit more control. They actually averaged a gold deficit at 15 minutes through the week 1 games of 1,700 gold. They're around 700 up. So I want to track how these next 7 to 10 minutes go. If Frozen can continue to increase his if Pattern can start to get an item advantage with the help of his teammates, there's a lot of tools on the side of FB to just completely take over this game.
Oh yeah, a big part of that Kassadin pick, in the last round there is about getting through the mid game so effortlessly. And now, with the kill actually going over to him, it's pretty big that within all that burst and the flashy play, he was actually the one to get the last hit. That is a very early Rod of Ages and Merc Treads for this Kassadin, so he's going to be extremely confident in the play around mid lane, and we'll see if they can actually start more of their plays around the mid lane, take over the vision that we've constantly seen this battle over.
Yeah, this game is going to be very much about which mid laner is able to step up, because we've seen the most success for 1907 Fenerbahce when they play through Frozen in the early game. This guy achieved many accolades within his own region during the TCL, and coming into the play-ins, he was one of their star performers. And while Pan, he certainly shined in the late game team fights and he was a big carry, it was Frozen that allowed them to get there, and he was always the player that we were watching as the early game progressed.
Yeah, but giveth and taketh, because his Echo last week, jumping into the Lulu, of course, was the game-turning play that allowed SSG to just turn everything around. You know, FB had been sieging for a long time. I think you could see some of the cracks in their macro, some of their inability to break open Samsung Galaxy, and that's what allowed Samsung to win that game. Let's see whether or not it can happen again. Ardent Sensor completed for Core JJ in the bottom lane. Ruler getting very close to the Essence Reaver. The Dash of Helm, Cubey up in the top lane as well. As first item starting to trickle through. We've touched on that Rod of Ages, Infinity Age, Ardent Sensor. So everybody hitting that one item spike. And now we're going to get into these mid-game team fights.
Yeah, we look at item spikes. We also got to look at some of the wards that are lit around the map. Kobe, you were just talking about them. For deep vision, that is gained through priority in the middle lane. And typically you don't always expect that from a Kassadin. But because he got that first blood, and because of the constant pushing power in the bottom lane, Crash has been getting these deep wards in and giving Frozen a little bit more freedom as he plays very aggressively towards that vision.
Yeah, he's got some backup here as Crash as well as Depone are around mid lane once again to defend that vision. And it's one of the big points that we always bring up is people, very often a lot of the early game deaths will be over a control ward. You know, these fights over vision are very real stakes, and people are often willing to even overcommit to them. As we saw there, though, they did have some backup, and it was necessary.
Well, there's two teleports on the side of FB. Of course, Dolgen's still available. Frozen's is on cooldown. We've actually not talked about the top lane at all because it is that tank v tank
Galio v Cho'Gath, man.
It's even CS here between Cho'Gath and Galio, but we're getting to the point that they're now going to get involved, right? They've got their items, they've got their TPs, and anytime an initiation breaks out, let's see who's going to be quicker on the trigger finger and whether or not Dolgen's heroic entrance will be pivotal. Yeah,
because while the champions themselves could be game-changing, you've also got to look at who the players are, because for Thaldren, he is the big captain for FB. He was the guy that led them through the playing stages and is often the father figure, the guy that they can rely on to keep their confidence up. And Cuvée, he was considered one of, if not the best top laner coming into the tournament. There was a lot of praise. We've seen him get amazing outplays last week in their game versus RNG and G2, and both eyes will be on these top laners to not only see what they can do with their champions, but also in this game.
All right, where is the initiation here for 1907 Fenerbahce? They've got to defend against the three-man push. Cuvé's the first to arrive. Padden did not leave the bottom lane. It's chip damage on the mid, but nothing more.
Yeah, as threatening as Kassadin is, in a 1v1 scenario or chasing people down, again, always the weakness everyone will highlight is the wave clear. So a quick little jab there from Samsung to try and get some turret damage, but the threat of the collapse from 1907 Fenerbahce was just too scary for them, and they do back off immediately.
Yeah, personal pet peeve, look at this now. Crown's gonna get flanked. 3 members, Crash and Japone, coming in for the engage.
He feels the collapse coming.
He knows it's coming. The Tremor Sense is going to make it visible. The Gleaming Quill unable to pop the Void Shift. So risky and brave from Crown, but he knows supports coming in through the river. All right, Unburrow comes out from Crash. Ambition decides to leap forward. And Crash blows that flash to get over the wall.
Yep, they've got a recall here from Padden. He wants to go purchase right now, so they don't want to fight. They want him to get his purchase off before the Drake spawns. Recall timers are an objective of themselves in the early game because preparation is so big for these objectives.
Also look at the TPs. All are now available. Every summoner spell is up. Every player is reaching the 2-item spike that's going to indicate the start of a fight. And this is where Samsung really come into their own as a team.
And you see that slight discrepancy in the recalls, you know, plus the slight advantage in the game currently that they have allows Crash to start up this Mountain Drake, and it will be an easy execute.
So second Dragon for Turkey could be very important. Secured there by Crash. And 1907 Fenerbahce, they extend this lead even further. Talked a lot about the top laners, and Tholdren was chunked down low. Took a lot of damage from Cuvée, who's, again, just farming up a Storm. Very comfortable, very happy. And, you know, we're getting into this mid-game, into this mid to late game scenario. And 1907 Fenerbahce get a second shot at Samsung Galaxy, get a second shot at taking down Crown and the boys on what is a very even, very equal footing right now.
Might not be as they go for a dive.
All right, Chomp has already come down the feast, unable to get the kill. No more mana for Cuvée. Frozen, not really going to have enough damage yet. That's at least a summoner spell used. That means Samsung Galaxy are able to escape, not able to take Tholdren down.
Like the teleport from Frozen, just to guarantee the safety of his top laner. If he hadn't had that threat, they might have decided to commit, but Cuvée had no mana anyway, so it could have gone either way. Now we have to keep our eyes on the bottom lane.
Let's see what will happen here. The tower's the focus. Rulo's going to put some damage down. Crown's making his way in. Remember, teleport's available for Cuvée.
Yeah, Samsung attempting cross-map plays here. Gank on top side, then walking all the way down to bottom side. Crown and Ambition threatening the dive here, but they're going to abort that mission as well, with the vision in between going to dissuade them. So Samsung, you know, a couple of attempts here in the mid game, but fended off fairly quickly.
I mean, it just feels like both of these teams are pretty even at this stage. You know, there's a few attempts on both sides. There's a few potential setups, but nothing yet is coming. Frozen going to be able to pop Crown's passive and look for something further. And now I'm looking for the play from 1907 Fenerbahce, the heroic grand entrance. Rakan dives in, Galio jumps down on top of him, and then that just gives so much space for Crash and Frozen and Pattern to clear up whatever is caught in the tons of CC that can come down.
Will result in the biggest boom of World's group stages. Other than North America, obviously.
You're not even playing today, dude. Relax.
I had to bring a bit of comedy value. You know, it's a slow game so far. We're approaching 20 minutes. Let's backtrack to the game, lads, now. SSG, they're on track to get themselves their first tower of the game.
And they got options, because of course their mid tower is being chipped down, the top tower is being chipped as well. 1907 Fenerbahce going to be in trouble as Frozen's going to get locked down and shut down by the Nethergrass. Teleports channeled and cancelled from both. And that's the first kill for the third LCKCs.
Great move. They're finally able to find the play around mid lane and punish Frozen here with that crowd control from Malzahar, immediately locking him down. As we said, Ambition on the Kazakhs gets to bring that damage to cut right through him. Lethality already picked up for him, so he really can make that one work.
Love the duo combo, being able to shut down Cassidy. We talked about how if he has no mobility, it becomes very easy to kill him, and now they have priority on the middle lane.
All right, QSS picked up by Frozen. 1907 Fenerbahce will lose their first tower in all 4 games. They have conceded the first tower, and all of a sudden, Tholdren throws his ultimate down after the tower is already dead.
Cuvée has been consistently pushing this top lane, which means that after the ulti from Tholdren, he's going to get a lot of damage down and may even take this turret, resulting in another tower going in the favor of SSG. And remember, the bot lane is also exceptionally low.
It's already a 1,500 gold lead for Samsung. This tower not yet killed. Frozen may be able to defend it, and does so for a little while longer. But it just feels like the scales are now tipping into Samsung's favor.
Yeah, you could definitely see there was not a lot of communication with that mid-lane attempted defense or engage or whatever you want to call it there, because the Rek'Sai going in on the champion that has the jump, and Galio ultimate long channel time, it's pretty simplistic for Samsung to get out, but now they're going bot.
All right, flash engage, Featherstorm comes down, Pattern, Japone, and Crash unable to find anything there. Samsung able to escape with their lives. I didn't quite see if that was just a sidestep. I mean, it had to have been. Rula and Core JJ didn't even use summoner spells. Tower number 3 is available here for Samsung. It is so easily knocked over. And for 1907 Fenerbahce, they find themselves in a 3,000 gold hole, and just being picked apart.
And initially, we wanted to see from FB them playing the Crash style, play the early game. They get a flash out from the ground. We think, oh, they're looking to try and make level 6 plays. They're trying to be early aggressors. But now they've slowed the game down. And this is SSG's territory. They know how to play the map. They know how to work as a team. And they're capitalizing on the lack of experience, to say, from the side of FB.
And it's definitely moments like that where you feel for the team, right? Crash is an emergency sub for these guys. And yes, he can communicate with Frozen, but then there's delayed kind of communication with the rest of the team, and it's not a perfect scenario, but they've been trying to make it work, and they are still alive in this game, although Samsung just made such a huge surge. Look at the gold lead now.
They certainly have. The one thing that FP can still rely on is that their composition still scales relatively well. The level 16 Kassadin is something you always have to be aware of because of his 2-second ultimate. He's on his way to completing his 2nd/3rd item. You have the late game Tristana too, and Galio is one of the strongest tanks when it comes to this late game point. So it's all about how well can they match up against the team fighting power of SSG.
Well, team fighting power gets empowered by an Infernal Dragon at this stage of the game. 2 and 3 items starting to spawn. Righteous Glory picked up for Cuvée. Rapid Fire Cannon sitting in Ruler's back pocket versus the Shiv Eye Edge of Haddon. And of course, it looks like both teams are fully aware of the positioning. FB, do they want to channel this? All right, Golden's teleporting down towards the mid lane. He's going to look for an engage. 1700 HP on the Infernal. The engage comes in. That's a 2-man knocker. Here comes the hero's entrance. Thaldren and Frozen looking on the back line. That's a 4-man taunt. That's another kill for 1907 Fenerbahce. Ruler throws out the Feather Storm. Not going to be able to call the Feathers back, but it's Samsung Galaxy destroying FB. Thaldren sitting on the front line. Padding gets caught up by the Rupture. Forced to run away. He's dodging, dipping, ducking, and diving. He can't auto-attack enough. And Samsung wipe FB.
We questioned, could FB challenge the team fight power of SSG, and the answer is no. 2 kills in favor of FB, but 5 for Samsung Galaxy. They get themselves the ace, they get themselves the Infernal Drake, and they're running it down mid.
The post 20-minute surge from Samsung, just incredible here, taking over the game. And Ambition, they look so comfortable with him in the game.
Great calling from Samsung. It felt like once 20 minutes clicked over, they just went, okay, now we play. Gloves come off, make a few punches, 4 towers, a dragon, and an ace to boot.
Now, keep your eyes on the positioning of Ruler, because he was under a bit of scrutiny about his performance so far, but he chunks Crash out. He's not the one being engaged upon it. He's just free to deal all this damage. Still yet to be touched. We get a replay of Crown as he's very happy to see the end of that fight, and then we don't get to see the fight ourselves. So there's the damage, proof to what I was saying.
Censored for your eyes, you only get to see that one time.
But Ruler, he did a lot of damage, guys.
Yeah, very well played. And we were talking about his performance and some of his, I don't know if inconsistency is really a fair word, because they got crushed by RNG and he was on a Twitch, so what can you do in that scenario? However, there are some critical eyes being thrown on all 5 members of the Samsung roster because of their week 1 shaky performance. And now that we've entered the mid game good and proper, Samsung are fully activated. Guardian Angel on Ambition leading the way, and they're going to look to shut down and eliminate 1907 Fenerbahce from World's Playoff contention.
Consistency is going to be something that is always brought up at Worlds, and it's such an elusive goal in the best of one's group stages. That's why everybody is like constantly chasing this kind of just out of reach. There's so many things that go so differently game to game. This time around though, Samsung going to be able to set up around Baron next with a lot of this deep vision you can see in the red quadrant jungle of FB. That's going to pose a lot of problems now that Ambition also has gotten his 2nd evolution.
And it feels to me that Samsung are just in their comfort zone. This is exactly how they played within the LCK. FB have allowed them to get to this point, and now they're setting up for the Tower C. You can see Cuvée down in the bottom lane. Samsung are grouped up as a 4-man unit top. They've gotten so much deep vision down with the control balls, and Crash tries to engage.
Oh, Ruler didn't back away quickly enough, but gets a lot of sustain and heals. Turned around as Crown's able to kill Pattern. Now there's no damage. It looked so good at the start, but the turnaround is better. Golden trying to get the taunt down and not going to be able to find it. The engage interrupted. Core JJ, the monsoon will send tears down 1907 Fenerbahce fans' eyes, and Samsung are not done yet. The inner top turret is the focus, and Cube, by the way, says, I don't care, bros. He's continuing to push the bottom lane, and he'll take that tower as well.
All of that engaged, just stuffed by Samsung so quickly there. Janna ultimate on point from Core JJ, but even before that, pulling out the kill 4 versus 5 with the focus onto Padden.
Really impressive team fighting once again from Samsung. This is why they were praised for it coming into the tournament. Yes, there were question marks, there were holes in their play in week 1, but the Korean teams always get better when it comes to Worlds. Week 1 performance into week 2, these teams know how to grow.
And looking at Samsung right now, seeing how clearly stronger they are in this mid game, especially now that the map is wider, I don't think Haro's going to see another game today. Vision very clearly leading the way forward. I mean, Crash just gets run down. Infinity Edge completed on that last back. Ruler and the rest of Samsung Galaxy just in a dominant position. You know, when I think about top-tier teams taking on these emerging region squads, this is actually the type of game I sort of expect. Don't put yourself in a risky position early. Even if you go even until mid-game, rely on the experience and the macro to take over. And that's exactly what Samsung have done and demonstrated in such clear fashion.
It's one of those instances where you think that early dominance is needed to demonstrate your superiority, but the slow patient game can do the same as now Samsung that started off the Baron.
All right, is it going to be this? Actually, it's just gone. Oh, they're not even going to get close.
FB unable, maybe unwilling, maybe not on the same page. Everybody had flash, everybody had tools to get into the pit, but it would have been 4v5 at best.
Exactly. I mean, what are you really going to do? Your jungler is dead.
Against a Feast Smite.
Yeah.
So it's all going from bad to worse here for FB.
And now third items being completed for Samsung. The gold lead is about 9k. If they win this, they knock out 1907 Fenerbahce from contention to get to that quarterfinal spot, and Samsung will tie up the score with RNG.
Well, that means that FB become heartbreakers. FB, of course, still have to play RNG and G2 Esports. So with G2 picking up that win against the group leaders, we could find ourselves into very interesting territory as the day plays out. Now, before that, of course, Samsung need to use this Baron and break open the base, but their macro and their map play has just been exquisite for the last 10 minutes. Where do they go with this, Kobe?
I like your heartbreakers term, actually, for this team, because, I mean, straight from the play-ins, right? They were able to take the #1 seed, you know, moving through the play-ins from HKA, and actually that's how they were able to upset and get to this point. So definitely a term, I guess, that they'll be used to, and a position that they have been in before.
Now we have to keep our eyes still on Padden. While he hasn't had the best game as of yet, something that he was still praised for during the play-ins was his late-game performances. 3 items on the Tristana. He has the boots to boot. He's level 15, and he could still be one of the big carries for the team. So one that you can never really afford to underestimate as Samsung look to break into the base.
Let's see whether or not he can survive long enough against Ruler, Crown, and Ambition. All right, Ruler, Crown, and Core JJ, though, in a 3-man siege.
That was
chunked down Padden. That was gigantic burst of damage. Storm was available, and Padden really fancies himself another shot. All right, that Void Swarm going to allow the tower to get taken down, and the base is open. Double Infernal Drakes to the side of Samsung, helping them out with this high damage dealer comp. And by the way, Cube is still playing PvE. Cube did not load onto the PvP server. Today it's about PvE. He's looking for the buffs. He's looking for the towers. He's still alone. He's got the tower.
But who the FB said?
Boss.
There's no one to send down there. Thordran doing his best, but he's always getting pushed back by Kube. There's a massive minion wave as well. Here's the engage.
All right, let's see what they can do. Padden not able to rocket jump over the wall. That could be game-changing. They've shut down Crown, turning their attention. Ambition still got GA. That's a follow-up onto Core JJ. Cube wall. The interrupt onto Padden. The feast as well as the feral scream takes him down. That's a route now onto Thaldred. And the fact that Ruler is so fed and untouched, he's looking to close things out.
Kube finally joins the fight, and you see the difference in power. Getting the knockup and the kill onto Padden should be more than enough to allow Samsung to end the game.
The Baron buff here doing a lot of work. They just rotate from inhibitor to inhibitor to inhibitor. Now all that's left are the Nexus turrets standing in their way.
League of Legends victory by the numbers. Supers across all the lanes. That was one hell of a Baron power play. And Samsung not going to risk making a mistake in the base, not going to risk throwing away any lead that they have accrued, all 12,000 of it. Instead, go back, spend the money. Look at that scoreboard on the bottom, guys. Huge items being picked up. And Samsung, one lost siege. That's all they're going to do. Tie themselves for first in the group, go to 3-1.
Insta-buy Mercurial from Ruler. That's not really what you want to be seeing if you're FB, but you are at a 12,000 gold deficit, so there's very little you can do about it. Level 18, Cuvée coming up huge for the team, and now they're on track to get their third win of the group.
Interesting, setting up the next match as well. You talk about the third wins and what does this do for the group. G2 are just coming out of a very quick victory over RNG, and now they're going to be playing Samsung, who have kind of a Samsung-esque win here, right? Yeah. Very calm and collected, even though they did get behind early on. That's going to be their next matchup, and this is going to put a lot more weight on it.
Yeah, really, really well. And what a great confidence booster for Samsung Galaxy. Close out the game, such Samsung fashion. Comfortable, and we'll see the two undefeated teams for today, going head-to-head. And that will inform us how the rest of the group plays out. 4,300 gold was that power play as Ruler chunks down Crash. 1907 Fenerbahce need to defend this base, but I don't think that they can. Silence goes down to Frozen. He buys some time with the hourglass. Charm comes down from the quickness, but that's 1, 2, 3 quick kills for Samsung. They're going to shut down Patton on the way out as the last man standing is Doldrin. Ruler is hammering away on the Nexus, and Samsung Galaxy eliminate 1907 Fenerbahce from Worlds 2017 playoffs.
Very clean game overall.